Welcome back to another CIRF report, and let's start with a little bit of trivia. Are we looking at a pretty pressure cooker week? Are we looking for grand trines? What about like feeling like you're in between a rock and a hard place? Is this going to be a positive week, a negative week? That's what we're going to hopefully iron out for you. And if you stay to the end, not only will you get the main influence for this week, energetic influence, but you also get the solution as suggested by an I-Ching reading. And here's our summary slide, and we have a lot of astrology, including the full moon. I'm going to talk briefly about the full moon tonight for those of you who are watching this right away, or at least within 24 hours. This energy is still going to be there, and it's an important one. There's a lot going on, including not just a full moon, but a T-square and several inconjuncts, which are making some adjustments in things. And so there's a lot there. And then throughout this week, we've got 2 grand trines that are taking up pretty much 4 days in there. We have a T-square. We have a Venus conjunct with Saturn and Pluto. And Saturn and Pluto even getting closer together, technically also in a conjunction. So like a triplet conjunction there. So a lot going on in the stars. That's represented by the purple circle. And then the dream bot, as we're going to see, is focusing a lot on spiritualism, the social group, the social interaction engagement, and also technology, which really signifies, in terms of astrology, Uranus. And there is a lot of Uranus this week, by the way. The I-Ching reading, when we cast these coins, we received hexagram 47, which is, oppression. But that's the influence. That is not the solution. The solution is vastly different, but definitely coincides with the hexagram 47. All right, let's go into the dream bot. This is the collective dreams, and this indicates what the highest frequency of words are in people's dreams as of the 11th of December. In the blue arrows, we have the technology that I mentioned before. This is very indicative of Uranus, even though you have like tablets and notes and all these names of phones and technology like HTML, coding, and just obvious technology there. And then in the red arrows, we have like tribe, social engagement, etc. This is just where people hang out and what they do when they engage. And then in the orange arrows, we have the other world, the spiritualism, divine. Even if you include 3, like the Trinity, but grand ascend, oneness, God, dream. This is like the otherly world, including aliens. All right, so that really has to do with the water signs, and we'll get deeply into that. We have a grand water trine, so the collective is all over what sort of astrological influences are expected over the next week. By the way, this reading is for December 11th through December 18th. Pretty much from Wednesday to Wednesday. All right. This little chart, these gates give us an indication of what's coming up in terms of alignments. And the big ones that are just starting in this period are Jupiter trine Uranus. So very optimistic change, expansive change that can appear to be very positive. And then you also have Mars trine Neptune. And so, we mentioned this last time, but moving towards your dreams, getting, like manifesting your dreams. Then over here, let me get the highlighter out. Down here we have a Venus that is basically in between Saturn and Pluto. And Pluto is technically in conjunction with Saturn. And so they've been holding hands. They're just going to be getting closer and closer, heading towards Capricorn. But Venus now is in between them and basically going towards Pluto. And so in this, we're going to get, if we include all three of them together, we're harmonizing foundation and rules. That's Saturn. Harmonizing is from Venus, but also destruction and rebuilding. But, Pluto can also be inner power and almost secrets. But it's harmony. It's harmonizing all that. It's making all this beautiful. And you almost got these opposites happening, and they're together. The Saturn of old, this is the way it's always been. And Pluto is wanting something different, or it's going to destroy what has always been and rebuild something new. So those holding hands together is being harmonized. So it's really a beautiful thing. It looks on paper to be a very positive week. So what in the heck is going on with this pressure cooker meme? Or oppression, to be more exact. First, let's talk about later this evening. I'm recording this at 8:30 Central Time on the 11th. And if we see here, December 11th at 11:11, it is the full moon. The full moon goes exact. Now, here's another thing. So it's kind of strange. On December 12th, Eastern Standard Time, December 12th at 12:12 p.m. or a.m., 12:12 a.m., it's also the full moon. So that's pretty cool. You've got those triplet numbers together no matter which time zone that you're in. Either central, it's going to be on the December 11th, or on the Eastern time zone is December 12th, but technically same time. Okay, so you've got the full moon, and if you're really wanting a lot of details, I recommend going back to the last report. But I want to highlight this for people who are watching this early, that you've got a T-square over to Neptune. So this is really casting a lot of fantasy in your imagination during this full moon. But not only that, you've got these inconjuncts here against the full moon over to Pluto, Venus, and Saturn. And not only that, but you've got Uranus with an inconjunct. And these inconjuncts suggest adjustments. Adjustments are necessary, just like balance is necessary. This is kind of the epitome of balance with your emotions and your ego on a full moon. And if you can't balance that, then we have dysfunctional sort of behavior. And statistics in various places in the world have shown that people do tend to go crazy, and no wonder, because they're not able to balance ego with emotions around full moon time. So there's also there's all these adjustments, and so that can kind of be wacky. But you also have Jupiter with expansiveness trining over to Uranus, and so it's like gotta be positive change, but it doesn't look like that on paper, because if you're seeking your dreams, for example, manifesting your dreams like Mars wants to do, then we run the risk of creating obstacles, at least in this period of time. Now it's on the waning side, because these squares here with the moon to Neptune and then the sun to Neptune are waning. That alignment is on its way out. All right, but all in all, it is a full moon. It's a Gemini full moon, and it is friendly. It's social. It's get along with everybody. Gemini is very good with getting along with people. It's very mental. It's an air sign, and so there's a lot happening in the mind, even though, well, there are adjustments with Mercury, with Uranus, so changes in the mental constructs that matches with the full moon. But a lot of happening. That's the whole point here. And a lot of obstacles. There's going to be a potential for escapism. Here's our number one instance of the oppression. It might feel like I'm stagnant. I feel like I can't move forward. I feel like life's against me. This this right here, this snapshot here, and this could be good for another day. As we move into Thursday, there's really not enough to change this. Now all the inconjuncts, those disappear for Thursday, and so all we're left with is just nurturing and harmonizing power. So we've got Saturn and Venus and Pluto. Venus going towards Pluto. I already mentioned that. And so it's going to be harmonizing more towards destruction, rebuilding, inner power, beauty and inner power. That's a pretty cool combination there. But we also have on Thursday, Moon is returning home. She owns Cancer and is going to feel right at home, but it's going to be very emotional but nurturing. Cancer is a nurturing, it's at home. So those of you who've got a lot of Cancer in your chart are going to feel especially nurturing for about Thursday and Friday going into the weekend. But look at this. This is Friday the 13th. Excuse me. And we have a grand water trine. Exactly what the Dreambot was warning us about, because this is not only social, but it's also very spiritual, because you've got Pisces and Neptune on one corner, Mars, what in Scorpio, Mars does rule Scorpio, and then you've got Moon ruling Cancer. You've got all of the rulers of these water signs in this grand water trine. That is absolutely rare and very cool. And so this is an extra powerful grand water trine. So water, what is that? That's a lot of emotions. Emotions is an essential piece to a group of people or bonding type of group or some sort of attachment or relationship. It's absolutely essential. So there's a lot of relationship in this. There is also a lot of creativity and psychic material, particularly on this corner. But when you've got Mars and Neptune, this can really bring, like we talked about in the last CIRF report, manifesting your dreams. It's a very unique case of stepping into the other side. And this is only good for, let's see, Friday and a little bit of Saturday. So if you look at Saturday, it's all waning because the moon is whipping around there a lot faster, but it's still there. And this is as of 9:42 a.m. on Saturday. One more thing about Friday. Watch this. So this slide was created for Friday the 13th, December 13th, in military time, 13:13 and 13 seconds. And there's your grand water trine. It's pretty cool on Friday the 13th. So lucky? Yeah, I think so. You've got, this is a really great luck alignment, which is Jupiter trine Uranus. I mean, luck implies that there's some sort of change. Now, how can you have good luck? How can you manifest luck without having some sort of change to your environment? So yeah, heck yeah, I think it's a very lucky day, Friday the 13th. Then we head into the weekend. Saturday, you still have the grand water trine, at least for the first half of the day. That's going to change later on. And we have adjustments to the ego. You see the moon making an inconjunct over to the sun. So ego has to make some adjustments in that morning time frame. Then in the afternoon, Mercury is going to square Neptune. So there is Neptune and Mercury is right there. So we've got that new square showing up. Yeah, we have the moon squaring over to Uranus, but that's going to be some changes, especially as moon ends up going into Leo. And that whole emotional energy is going to drastically change as well, from kind of staying at home to heading out into the community with the Leo and shining your light. that represents some quick change as well. But Neptune square Mercury is very tricky for the mind. Rational side is Mercury, with very logical, very rational, wants to learn, wants to communicate, short distance travel. That's squaring off to the tricky, fantasy, dreamy, psychic Neptune. And so mind is going to create some problems for you. They're rational, trying to rational. More specifically, if you make assumptions using rational thought, you're going to create some more obstacles. And so this doesn't mean that you can't use your mind and communicate. It just means make sure you have hard evidence before you are making your rational thought. Rational thought's good, but it's not the complete picture. And the other thing that we can do is to use your emotions to read what is beautiful, Venus, maybe your inner power, to read your inner power. You know, the moon opposite all these three is very powerful alignment. That's going to be better than using your rational mind, because there's going to be a lot of fantasy, a lot of illusion, if you will. It's not going to be real. It's going to create problems for you. There's the second risk for oppression. On Sunday, there's not really a whole lot new to see here, so let's head to Monday. And we have another grand trine, and this is expressing. So we have the sun in Leo expressing emotions, and it's very positive because that's Jupiter, and that's going over to Uranus. And it's almost a grand Earth trine. Here's a hint. On the 17th, Tuesday, it turns into a grand Earth trine. So we've got Uranus, Moon, and Jupiter all in the Earth signs. But let's talk about this one really quick. On Monday, it's a grand trine, so it's full of trines, and that's easy energy. So easy transfers from emotions to expansiveness and positivity to quick and drastic change, but also insight. Uranus is about revolutionary insight that can come to you by way of your emotions here. And especially if you've got positive emotions, those positive, expansive emotions are going to produce some insights for you. Now, there's an exception here, because Venus is going to start to square Uranus. And so now we bring in relationships with change. So this change that might be happening as you adapt to that as a couple, this might produce some obstacles in your relationship. So watch for that on Monday. You know, everything is easy except for pay close attention to your closest relationships, because you might be injecting some obstacles in there as you both adapt to the change that is happening there. Okay. Then on to, that was another, this is another option for the oppression feeling, because, as a couple is trying to adapt to the change and they're not able to do so, that might feel like damned if I do, damned if I don't. And we're going to talk about that later in the I-Ching reading. All right, here's their grand Earth trine on Tuesday, this 17th of December. And what this feels like is very positive change and very practical. So Earth signs need to be practical and to use this energy to the best, especially with Mercury square Neptune on that day and Venus square Uranus. It's best to just ground yourself, stay connected to the earth, stay connected to the 3D reality. This has everything to do with the solution for the week. It's my little hint, but it's staying in the physical reality, not drifting off into fantasy, not using too much mind and rationalization. Just stay with the to-do list, stay with what you need to be doing. Don't get off into a lot of planning. Although that's important, if you've got a plan, then I would reduce I would get as much evidence as you can to reduce this Neptune influence and creating more obstacles than you need. Okay, evidence is all about the 3D reality, and that is going to reign king on Tuesday, December 17th. More on that later. Then unfortunately, later on in the day, this is now 10:41 p.m., you can see on the same day, Tuesday, we have a T-square. So it moves from a practical grand trine to a T-square, Moon, Neptune, and Mercury. Now, it is very temporary, but throughout that night, these dreams might become very unreliable. And it's going to be very difficult to ascertain any logical sequence and any logical practicality to those dreams that you're having that night, potentially. Then on Wednesday, it is a little bit chaotic. I mean, we got a little bit of everything. We've got another square happening. And that's with the moon and the sun. That's kind of the standard, just kind of losing myself temporarily, or at least I have a disconnect or an imbalance between the emotions and how I project out to the world, and my sense of ego is all kind of out of whack in that case. But look at all the trines here. So there is a lot of easy energy. There's a couple of sextiles. There's an opposition. There's so much happening on Wednesday that it just becomes very chaotic. What reigns dominant on a day like this? Well, obviously the closest planets, but in general, we like to go do the I-Ching reading. So let's go do that now. I'll show you the results. The results of casting the I-Ching coins means that the main energetic influence for the week is mainly a confining oppression. It's hexagram 47. And by the way, look at this. We have lake over water. And what you're going to see when we put this change in, there's going to be thunder over water. So water is the main theme, and that's crazy because we have a grand water trine in there 2 of the days in this week. Lots of water signs. So here's what 47 is going to feel like. There comes a time of decline. Your forces are exhausted, and now there is no desire to get down to business and move forward. There are rumors, idle gossip. Pay attention to your health. We talk about the water below, but the times of adversity are the reverse of times of success, but they can lead to success if they befall the right man. When a strong man meets with adversity, he remains cheerful despite all the danger, and this cheerfulness is the source of later successes. So it's very important that you keep your chin up through this period if you're feeling that, but even that's not the ultimate solution, because we got to put that change line in. But just recognize that this is what you might be feeling. Now, what does this feel like? An individual who has the good of mankind at heart is oppressed from above and below. That feels like a rock and a hard place. It feels like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. So if that's the influence, what is the solution? Well, we put the change lines in, which is only one change line, and you get thunder over water, which is hexagram 40. This is taking apart, and it's deliverance. Oh, thank goodness. No wonder we have that Jupiter influence in here. It's not as bad as it seems. That's the key here. It's not as bad as it seems, and so let's look for action in here. The judgment says from the Book of Changes, deliverance, the southwest furthers. If there is no longer anything where one has to go, return brings good fortune. So it's not like just wandering around. You have to be purposeful. If there is still something where one has to go, hastening brings good fortune. So it's just don't meander. Don't expect for life to come at you, but it's not all negative. And anything that's negative will resolve itself. Let me read further on. Here the movement goes out of the sphere of danger. The obstacle has been removed. The difficulties are being resolved. Deliverance is not yet achieved, though. So we're kind of in the midst of the beginning of deliverance, okay? And the hexagram represents its various stages. So in this later week, it's going to feel like oppression. It's going to feel like a rock and a hard place, possibly, and maybe very volatile in emotions as based on the astrology of all this. Let me continue here with this last paragraph. This refers to a time in which tensions and complications begin to be eased. At such times, we ought to make our way back to ordinary conditions as soon as possible. In other words, get in a routine, work towards a routine, be patient, wait for your conditions to resolve, and get back to normal. Just as the rain relieves atmospheric tension, making all the buds burst open, so a time of deliverance from burdensome pressure has a liberating and stimulating effect on life. One thing is important, however. In such times, we must not overdo our triumph. The point is not to push on further than is necessary. Returning to regular order of life as soon as deliverance is achieved brings good fortune. If there are any residual matters that ought to be attended to, it should be done as quickly as possible so that a clean sweep is made and no retardations occur. Okay, I think that was fairly clear, but let's go into the final summary slide. You can see the importance of this week. So here's, in a nutshell, in the top half of this diagram, what is the influence? Well, we got the lot of water, grand water trine. We've got this massive amounts of, kind of contradictive astrology. And so you might feel like this mole who's in between a rock and a hard place. So sea of emotions, maybe difficulty moving forward, maybe start feeling helplessness, maybe start feeling like you want to escape, maybe a lot of discomfort. But here's the solution. Get on that treadmill, get what you need to get done, be steadfast, be very patient. Everything's going to be fine. Continue. Don't escape. Finish your projects. If something new comes up, nip it in the bud, get it done quickly, and get things back to regular order of life. That's it. All right, everybody. If you got any questions, put those below. I appreciate you being here, and we'll see you next week as we head into real Christmas time. We'll probably have, we'll have the Christmas day on our next CIRF report. So exciting times. We'll also have, I believe we'll have not only Christmas, but we'll have winter solstice. So anyway, we'll see you next week. Enjoy your week, everybody. Hang in there.